So I'd really like to welcome you all to the first anniversary of African Spiritual Practices, and also to really, Edison's my hero, I'm going to be honest. He is a hero of mine because when I speak to him, I get personal healing. And I love having conversations with this man because I get new insights and it helps me with my own spiritual practice. So I'm really happy that you keep saying yes. I'm really, really happy about that. So first and foremost, the question I always ask.
Yes, go ahead.
What is ancestral essence and what is it that you do?
Okay, ancestral essence is just our way of reintroducing the ancient African ways back, the way in which is not talked about in the books, the way it's understood behind the curtain where you're the one who's always been communicating with your ancestors. I always love it because when someone says, how do you teach someone to do this? I just remind them that they always have been doing it. And our job is just to remind you that you have that connection there, you've always had it, and you can't survive without it. So it's not something where we're trying to prove it to anyone. We're just trying to take all the things out of the way so it becomes glaringly obvious to you. So that's what Ancestral Essence has been doing for about nearly 10 years now. We've been putting on courses, writing blogs on Facebook. We've got our own webpage now where we're offering other services, counseling, readings, and various other things. Really just in a way to get people to pull out the real them into control of their mind and not have them in a situation where they're being dictated to by the outside world to the point where they don't know who they are inside their own mind. So, yeah.
I love it as you keep seeing
So
your
friends,
old friends and
so
old students.
old fields.
And this year we actually, for the first time, we have a theme.
Okay.
And the theme came partly from conversations that we had, and also from, I was speaking at a festival and there was an anthropologist who had really just lost heart with humanity until he met a tribe in the Congo, and he started realizing, there is a group of human beings who seem to be living what it is to be a human being. And I thought, wow, what does it mean to be a human being? And what is it to be a human? And I sent that to all of you. And I was like, speak on it.
Oh, wow.
So when I send, you these two, the statement and the question, how do you see it, interpret it, and from the standpoint of what you know, what is it to be a human being and what it is to be a human being?
That is a really big question.
Yes.
And one which we've all been led on a merry path to actually think being a human is something that is physical. Everyone translates themselves from their physical parents thinking who I am, what I look like is actually me. And they don't realize that the person who's actually looking at their physical self is the me. You're really just walking around in an instrument that allows you to enjoy the experience of being in this dimension. So the first thing we always say, shall I carry on?
Yeah, carry on.
The first thing we always say is, when you're looking out at the world, is that image happening in real time? Is that actually what you're seeing? Is what you're seeing as outside actually taking place as you assume it is? The truth is, it's not. Everything you're seeing is something you've created inside your mind. You've effectively created a hologram with all the details that you've taken, and you're walking around in your own personal little world with your own personal little story and your own personal little dreams and demons and all different things. There's no out there as you perceive. So from our standpoint and the stuff that we're teaching now, we're having you see that effectively to take control of yourself, you have to take control of your mind because you're really taking place inside your mind. The trick is to make everyone believe that they're a physical entity and start from, you know, the old mind, body, spirit. Well, now it is that the body is the mind is the spirit, and the spirit is the slave. The spirit is what essentially keeps you going, but essentially isn't what you're supposed to be. It's what you're supposed to be focusing on. You're supposed to learn who you are from the essence first. Yeah, we give the example, the classic one where we say, are you looking through your eyes? Because everyone assumes that they are. But then I always give the thing, I say, if you put your hands across your brow and you can take your hands off and you can see above your brow, then the picture you're seeing is not taking place through your eyes. Yeah? It's not taking place where you think it is. What you've effectively done is taken in information via your senses, and then you've created another picture in order to be able to ask greater questions as, what am I looking at? Whenever you're looking at, you're asking the question, what's going on, what's going on, what's going on, what's going on? Because you've created a picture to look at to enable you to try and work out what is taking place in the picture you're looking at. What you see is really just part of your thinking process. Because the next thing you do is ask a question. You go to what you've been taught, or when we say you go to your ancestors, you go to listen for another voice inside your mind to give you some understanding as to what you're actually looking at. All of us are all the time sort of in our own personal daisies, having conversations with other voices inside us, not knowing who they are, but hoping that they give us some clarification on what we're actually seeing. So being human is the trick that everyone has focused on, because we always ask the question, is your body, is your mind in your body, or is your body in your mind? And once you realize that your body is actually in your mind, you realize that what you're looking at, even when you're looking at your hand only exists inside your mind. Close your eyes and you can't see anything. Yeah? Only you have to create the picture to see it. And all of us have been educated from when we were children to focus on creating another version of ourselves. We call it the avatar consciousness because the idea of who you think you are was created from when you was a child. When someone named you, told you where you came from, told you your history, and then you run with that program and you created that reality as something to fix for yourself. So you spend your whole life being given an issue to deal with. You spend the rest of your life trying to work out how to externally fix yourself, but never feeling satisfied because internally, nothing has changed. Whatever you have, you still feel the same because effectively, you haven't fixed the part of you that is trying to come forward to show you who you really are. So being human is an idea. And who you are is an idea that you're working on in your mind. You're the one who's trying to hold the image of yourself. Even when you look in the mirror, people don't really look in the mirror. They just give it a quick flick, and they don't realize they're looking at their memory of how they may have looked yesterday or the week before. And they're only ever comparing themselves on what they looked like the day before. They only have one day's worth of memory. That's why whenever you're walking around looking at everyone, they're as confused as you. Because you're thinking, are they looking at me? But you're the essence looking through your eyes at them or creating a hologram of them, and they're doing the same thing. They can't see themselves. All they have is the memory of what they looked like in the morning when they left the house, and they're holding that memory around. And if they thought that looked good, then they feel good. If they felt it looked bad, they think everyone's going to look at them like they're bad. When in honesty, everyone's suffering the same thing you're doing. They're saying, how do I look? And they're looking in everyone's faces to see their reaction to work out how they look in that day. But this is such a wide subject because when you say what is human, then you ask, how did I get to this point where I feel like I'm struggling, but I'm struggling with thoughts arguing within me. I think I should be this, compared to what I've been told, but I believe I'm actually that, and I'm judging myself accordingly. So you're putting yourself in your own box. And if you don't enjoy what you think of yourself, then you will punish yourself accordingly. That's why we say you live in your mind, because what you think is reflected in your body.
Wow, and it's so true on so many levels. Today I had an amazing encounter. I hope she's in the room, Pearl, who made sense of a situation. And it was really annoying me because I talked to you, I think last month, and I was manifesting like nothing because I chatted to you and it was like I opened a new door, and then slowly a program came back in and the manifestation was going down. It's and Pearl today showed me where it was almost like I was putting in this old program, slotting it back in. And yeah, she was really talking in parallel to how you speak about these things. And so while you were speaking now, it just made me think, so how do we as human beings, because we find ourselves in a place where apparently we're human beings and we've got all these programs going on. So how do we connect to the spirit or allow the spirit or our essence to come through this 3D reality where we're holding, our bodies actually exist in our mind, but we think we exist in our bodies that has a mind? What are the tips and tricks to be in spirit and not be in body?
The thing is, you are always in spirit. Because 9 out of 10 times, in order to do anything really productive or creative, it's your spirit that actually does it. The thing is, who is influencing the spirit? Who is giving the instructions of the spirit what to create? Yeah, imagine if only you, the only thing you ever seen is a hologram you've developed in your own mind. The only thing you can ever achieve is a better picture of the hologram you've got in your own mind. So what you're looking for is greater ingredients, greater situations. Now, again, what is not explained is that what we're looking out at doesn't appear as it appears in our mind. We think we're looking at people and situations where our mind is actually creating these people and situations. All that exists outside. And this is where, let me think, the best way to describe it is something like a smart TV. You have a smart TV standing there, you turn on the power and what have you, you got the Wi-Fi signal. And then when you turn on the Wi-Fi signal, the signals basically sends the waves, sends the data or what have you to the actual TV. The TV then picks up the signals and then creates an image on the TV. You don't see images flying in the air, jumping into the TV. The TV converts the images outside and then creates the picture. All of us are living in a world of waveform and energy, and it's our mind that condenses it to the images that we see. Now, the thing is, we have a choice of what we want to see as well, because when you're looking on a TV, you're the one who chooses what channel that comes up on it. All the channels are available on the TV, but you're the one who chooses what is the image that comes up in your mind. You have the capacity to convert all the information that is in the waveform outside and bring that into an image inside your mind. The thing is as well, you attract what you believe. So whatever your state your mind is in is what generates the information to create the waveform that you're actually looking at. So if you think less of yourself, that's what you're going to bring towards you to have that experience. And if you have any doubt to say that might not happen, that could be enough to alter the actual waveform you're dragging towards you to have your experience. So when we live in a world where everyone is telling us who we are, how we should be, they're effectively telling us how to create the image that we see inside our mind. The whole education system at the beginning was really just to imprint the outside reality controlled by others, so you develop it in your mind as your normal life. Yeah? We are living in a story being played out in our mind. When they talk about the matrix or the simulation, or where is it? It's like the fish looking for the sea when they're swimming in it. Yeah? They're in it. You can't find it because you're already in it. You can't find a matrix because your mind is actually creating it as your judgments of the images that you see in your mind. And because someone gave you all the rules of how you should behave, they also gave you the instructions of how you should create your reality within your mind. So whenever you come to a decision, you lean on your education and say, oh, what did they say? Okay, that is the answer to it. As opposed to looking inside yourself to hear an alternative answer. You've been told that that's crazy. Crazy to listen to voices, yet a voice is what talks to you every day. When you're trying to get up in the morning, don't you hear that voice?
Yeah.
Get up. Oh, I don't want to get up. Can I press snooze? Get up. You have to get.
Yeah.
Yeah? So you're continuously bombarded with voices all the time, giving you instructions of what you should do. It only seems when it's voices that are about you, then you're crazy. Everyone else's voices, you know, you're perfectly sane, and you're encouraged to follow them.
Yeah.
So the law of attraction is really, you're creating what you think of yourself all the time.
So it's a law of belief.
Law of belief, but
Yeah.
even if you believe yourself, there's only you.
Yes.
There's nobody else. All
Yeah.
people can do is encourage you what to create.
Right.
They can't make you create. That's why there's no creator other than yourself. And the whole trick was to externalize you into your body, because in truth, we don't live in a 3D world. Your body lives in a 3D world because your mind creates a 3D image of you. And as a result of creating a 3D image of you, that's what you're actually working from. But imagine everything that is visible is created from something non-visible. So your emotions, non-visible. Your thinking, non-visible. How you feel is not visible. What happens is it's then thought of in the mind, and then it's translated through into the body. The body thinks whatever, the body feels whatever you think.
Yeah.
And you're constantly in a situation where your mind and your thinking is taking place in another dimension inside you. And your opinion of yourself in another dimension inside you, and then filtered down into your body to how you feel. Yeah, and also then creating and bringing more information for you to have, how do you say, to basically support whatever you're thinking, good or bad.
Yeah.
It all starts with your head, and it ends in your head, because the whole pictures are taking place in your head.
In your head. Wow. So when we ask the question, what is it to be human, you've described what it is, which is a bit, don't want to use the word because we're on YouTube, effed up, really. Because it feels like this is the kind of education we should be having from Dot, but we don't have from Dot, which is fine, because whenever you learn it, is
The time.
Is the time. It's good enough. So then the next question is, and I know I always ask you this, is okay, how do we start to undo or correct or understand our perception and what it creates in our lives, so we can really have a greater control?
I'll be honest with you, it's very tough, because all of our lives we lived under the idea of this concept. And everyone has attached emotional feelings to their parents and their story. So everyone's in a situation where they're filtering themselves through their opinion of themselves. And whatever they're creating to see, they're generating emotional and saying, I have to get over this, I have to get over that. The thing is, you're never living in time. You're only living in your memories. And your memories don't work on the past, present, and future. They just work as one continuous thing. you can try and separate them with those terms, with those English terms, and the way in which they control everyone is teaching them a language, and then the language becomes the computer code, which then designs their mind. So whenever someone speaks in a language and you recognize it, you automatically create the image, and you know how you've been taught how to feel. So language is how they separate you from your spirit and everything. But I think, what was I saying when we was going back to the creation? What was it we was talking about, the question you asked about?
What, just now?
Yeah, I went off on a
Yeah,
tangent.
no, you didn't at
Go
all.
on.
Because really, because I was...
It's time.
Yes.
That was it, the time. So what happens is we create, it's like a Windows on a computer. You create a window of a hologram of an event, and that event stays with you, open, waiting for you to close it. And every day you carry on more events, more stories, what have you. So you become, your head is full of all these different things, all these different events, all these different situations. And what also happens is, as a result of each event, you create a manager, which becomes a personality, which effectively, when that situation happens, you're triggered, like how you thought in that moment. So you could be speaking to someone in 1 minute, say the wrong thing, and a whole different person come out. So who the hell are you? And that was just because they've been triggered back to that memory, and the memory or the personality they created to protect that one now comes forward to come forward and to protect them. So when you're looking at someone, they're a combination of people. And everyone tells different parts of them to shut up and sit down, but the person or that personality is there for a reason, because it's there to protect the memory that is still open that that person has from an event that took place in that time or in their life. Yeah?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I find, as I'm always talking about working with plant medicines, I end up with a list of what I call the work. You know, you have your trip and all this stuff, and then I do the work and I put it somewhere I can see it, because I understand that after the trip, and you get a nice window of time where, you know, you can change if you like, but then it seems the subconscious, the old one, wants to start coming back in.
Thank you.
And if you don't have the work in front of you for you to see, 3 weeks later you're back, like, oh, I'm doing this shit again.
Yeah.
And it's a really interesting thing, because I understand that, yeah, that program was there to protect you. And as you're trying to change, it's still kind of there wanting to protect you. And so it comes back. But what I want to know is, how do we, I don't know if it's let go or integrate, you know, what is it that we're trying to do to be more of who it is that we are, that we've forgotten, or maybe we never knew?
Well, this is the thing. Maybe we never knew.
Yeah, I think
So
maybe
it's
we never
hard to
knew.
find something you never
Yes,
knew existed.
yes.
If you go into a space and you don't know everything in there, you'll only focus on what you know.
Right.
Yeah, so if there's things contributing, I heard a wonderful line the other day that said, the future is infinite, but so is the past. Unless you know what took place in the past, you're not going to understand the present.
Yeah.
And you could be speaking to anyone, and you're speaking right now to that person, but the past of that person, you have no idea. So no matter how far forward you want to go with this person, you're going to have mysteries of their past turn up at all different times.
Yes.
And before you know, oh, you did that, or
Yeah.
you did this, or you did that. And every time they tell you, it changes the whole energy that you have towards that person, because you've constructed an idea in your mind as a program, and you've just been working on that idea when you're dealing with that person. So all we're ever privately doing is working on a load of programs that we created within our mind for all the situations we have around us. And whenever someone speaks to us, we're triggered to bring that image up, because whatever you see in your mind is where you are. Yeah, if someone says, no, I'm here. Imagine when you're sleeping and you're in your bed at night and you go into a dream. Where are you? In the bed sleeping? Or are you where the dream is? So your mind is constantly traveling. The hologram that you're looking at in your mind is where your consciousness is observing yourself.
Right.
So when we say, okay, can we get to the point where we're okay? What does okay look like?
What is okay?
You have to have an idea of a destination to work out a way to get there. And to be in this place of bliss, okay, we came here to have experiences. So bliss only takes place as like a drug. Every emotion is a drug. It happens in another dimension. And when it hits you, your conscious mind is suspended for a minute. You can't think because you're under the influence of the drug. And until the drug is over, can you then regain your senses and get back to who you are? And we as bodies have all become addicted to drugs. And the drugs are not whatever drugs. It's the drugs is the emotions. We want to be feeling something all the time. We want to be connected to something. We want to be watching something. The TV is like a cup of tea. It does the thinking for you. When you watch the TV, it entertains you. It gives you images, gives you ideas, so you don't think about yourself whilst you're watching the TV. If it's not the TV, it's music. If it's not music, it's news. It's whatever drug of choice. Yeah? If it's not drugs of choice, it's your own thoughts and your own feelings. The past, they are drugging you, keeping you constantly going, keeping you constantly motivated to look for answers, to fix your own memories. Nothing outside of you. Your self-contained world. When someone says the world, the meaning should be something you ask them and them alone. Because their world could be one area, it could be a whole continent, it could be 10 continents. No one can give the same correct answer because everyone's working from a totally different standpoint as into the program they're calling the world. So go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to know, so when people learn their own language and people start to communicate with their ancestors, I suppose I'm wondering, in the end, did they become happier, more content? Is it that they start to understand their mission, why they came, and that's where the contentment comes in? Or is even the idea of contentment also part of the program of something to strive for, but actually maybe it's not even about striving for things?
You know, it's funny because life doesn't get easier. You just get better at living it.
Okay.
So over a time, circumstances similar turns up and you're no longer affected by it. It's like you know what it's about. You know what's transpiring, so you can disconnect any growth of any emotion. Because often an emotion is just you're triggered. An event is taking place, you've got two thoughts that are arguing, and as a result, the reaction is a chosen emotion which you now feel inside your body. So what we're trying to fix is really just to find a state where, for me, to have less personalities, less versions of me in your mind. One that is more consistent, one that is more balanced, one that is less triggered. Because if you're in a situation where you're all over the place, it's just that you've got loads of personalities that can't work together and they're all over the place. You're constantly being triggered into an aspect of yourself that later on, when you've reflected back, you know that wasn't you, but the person saw you, the physical person, doing it. But that wasn't the one who did the actual act.
Yeah.
So it's to learn to basically measure all your different personalities, recognizing the understanding of how and what you're creating, so you can be in a state where you control what you reflect in your body.
Right.
You don't deny it.
No.
Because if you deny reality, then your mind will find a way to pass that down into your body as an illness.
Okay.
Yeah? So illnesses are often the mind's way of literally, how do you say, giving an alarm signal to you to get up and try and do something.
Right. And I'd love for you to talk a bit about judgment.
Judgment.
Yeah, because last time you just touched on it just near the end, and it was really profound about judgment. I was really thinking about that quite a lot. So I'd love for you to talk about how judgment fixes us and also, in a way, helps us to be unhappy.
That's its designment. All right, your consciousness, the real you, has no time to judge anything. It's there creating reality for you. It's there creating the images. It's creating the position where you can ask the question. Now, we have what we call the avatar consciousness, which is a personality that you developed from when you was a child, when someone told you, like I said, where you're from, what age you are, what is the date, what is the time, what you're born, what star sign it is, whatever. But you're given a whole plethora of all this different information, which you've now come together to create as the idea of who you are. Yeah? So now you're in a situation where that person that you have has created so many programs across so much different informations that now it's in a state of good or bad. Yeah, it has an idea of where it wants to be, and it reflects against what is bad. So everyone's kind of in a constant situation where they're judging themselves 24 hours a day, all the time, constantly. There's a view of who they think they should be. There's a view of how they would like to be, and in the middle, they're upset. And in all what you're doing, the way that we've got a God concept of judgment, that has been passed down in everyone, where first thing they have to be done is judge whether they're intelligent to pass an exam. And then when you failed that, you're given an idea, well, you're not very clever, are you? And from that point onwards, you work harder to memorize information that's got nothing to do with you, but so that you can regurgitate it next time and someone says, well done, you're clever. But throughout all of our life, if we're not being judged at school, you're being judged in your family, you're being judged in your relationships, you're being judged constantly all the time. Someone has a view of what is good and what is bad, and they're asking you to raise to the standard like you was given as a child when you was asked to pass the exams at school. And your whole life then becomes happy or sad based on how you're judging yourself in that moment.
And that's really mad, because when you first said that, and I definitely spent that week just really noticing, and I don't think of myself as a judgmental person until you hear about judgment and you're just like, oh my God, all these people, I'm putting them in all of these boxes. But I could see how it actually, you put them in a box and then there's a little bit of poison back to yourself. It's not, something weird happens when you look at somebody and you make a decision about them that fixes them. Somehow you fix yourself.
Well, you can't fix anyone.
No, I mean not fix as in make them better, but I mean fix as in I know who you are and I think all these things about them.
All the people that you have, when we speak about the hologram you create, now if you think of a hieroglyph, and a hieroglyph has a load of pictures in the hieroglyph, and that's what tells you the story. Each picture is a story within itself. But the way that your mind simplifies everything is just generating different images of people. When you go in to think of them, then all of a sudden the information, so you choose what you want to focus on. So I'll be looking at a picture, say, oh, that person, let me go and focus on that person, then everything else blurs out. And you're just focused on the one image or one story. So the way in which your mind incorporates a lot of information is by creating everyone in succinct little pictures and sync stories. It's not who they are. It's not even what they look like. But it's your mind's way of constructing a simple way so that you can actually look at everything, decipher it, hold it, and then move forward. Because if you had to imagine a person is like a library, you're not reading everything that's going on within them. So you've just created them as an image and said, okay, I'm going to encapsulate all that information. And then whenever I need it, I'll ask them or I'll try and find out. But like I said, whenever you focus on everything, one thing, everything else disappears. You can't see it. So what you see is really a holding device for all the information that is potentially there, and you've just worked out a system in your mind, how you can then look at everything, not react to everything, and pick and choose what you want to see and think about.
So how does having our own or discovering what our
Or
own
our language.
how does
Go on.
that bring us closer to the essence of
Okay.
who we are?
Your natural language is in English. When you was taught English, that was, or whatever language you speak, that was a program given to control how you generate images in your mind. When someone is speaking to you, you're taking the data and you're forming a picture in your mind from the words that they use. You were taught as a child to say, dog, this is dog, and then you pick the image and then you've got the name. So when someone is using language, they're literally using a labeling program in order to generate images inside your mind. And sometimes you can only see at the level of language you know. So there's certain languages that have words that don't appear in the English language. But those people can see those images because their language allows them to do that. And you can't see it. Your relationship with that image isn't there because you just haven't been given the scope to understand that in any other greater way. So the language is used in order to program you, I'm afraid. Yeah? And that's why the first thing you learn, or you don't learn, or you lose, is your own language. Your body doesn't communicate in English. Your body has several languages which it uses to talk to all the organs in your body, to get them to work, to do this, to do that. Your body has tons of languages, but you can only think in one language. So you've restricted yourself to the total intelligence of who you are, of what's going on inside your body. All them organs, they're all alchemists. They're all changing different things into different states. Yeah? The old saying, isn't it? When you put a chicken in your mouth, the chicken disappears and becomes something else. You've converted that thing into something else. So your body is vastly more intelligent than you, unfortunately, because most of us are just working from the ideas that someone gave us to who we are. And then we're struggling with all the issues containing that. We're like, okay, I'm this, I'm that, I'm this, I'm that. I don't believe I'm this, I don't believe I'm that. And then you're arguing with someone's opinion of you. And then made your life the pursuit of proving someone wrong who doesn't know you in the first place, who doesn't care. And that becomes your life journey. Yeah.
So by discovering your own language,
You can then draw your energy, because what language really is your life force. Coming from another dimension into this dimension. So the language is one, going to change the vibration in your mind, then will effectively change the vibration in your body. And your language is also a charging instrument, because it's pure life force you're expressing from yourself. Imagine whenever you're talking, you're charging the air, you're changing the waveform, you're changing the possibilities of things that are taking place. When someone hears you, they don't actually hear you. The sound isn't taking place from their mouth. They're just putting energy into the air, and your mind decodes it into a sound. Yeah? It sounds crazy, but in your dreams, when your eyes are closed and you're fast asleep and curdled up, you see colors. You hear sounds when there's nothing going on in the room. Yeah? You're by yourself. You see distance when you're there lying down in your bed. Where have you traveled to? How comes you can hear when there's no sound there? Because all that there's ever been is waves, and your mind has decoded the waves into sounds, and all the sounds and all the colors and everything exists in your mind, because you're the one who's designing the reality that you're actually experiencing.
wow. And so then for the speaker, because I've now heard two people doing their light language, and it has really, each time it's really gone in. The first one, of course, Iola, I've mentioned so many times here. And then the second one did a vocal healing here. But the first time I heard her do it, I'd never heard of light language before. but she was making these sounds that made me cry. And I could just feel it in different parts of my body. And recently when we talked about it, she said, oh, I never knew that when I would do this thing, there's a word for it called light language, but it's something she's always did from when she was really young. And so what I suppose I want to know is when someone's doing their light language or their internal language, are they understanding it in English?
No.
So
'Cause
what's
it's not
going
in
on?
English. Okay. All right. Imagine the picture that you see in your mind has to be built with a code, has to be built with a language. Any image you see on a computer, there has to be some coding that goes behind it in order to generate that image on the computer. It's the same thing in your mind. You have a specific language in order to create a picture in your head, in order to communicate. There are various languages that you have within your body, each tasked with the ability to create something for you to experience. Now, you speak thousands of languages. It's not just one or two. It's all dependent on, here we go, into previous lives and previous incarnations that you have that are all stored within you. You have the capacity to use and draw from them in certain moments to be able to heal certain things. If someone has an illness, what they have is an energy form inside their body. The reason why they say we can't cure something is because there's an entity that you can't kill. The entity is basically with a life force, with an intelligence, with a purpose to feed from you as much as it can. That's why it spreads. It knows where it's going. It knows what it's meant to do. So the fact is that energy is in your body. The only way it can be in your body is with your permission. Your vibration is lowered down. You don't know who you are. You don't understand the language that you speak. So with knowing your language, you can cure and kill and clear those energies and those pains and what have you, because it's like, what do we say? Every day for the thief, one day for the owner. When the owner turns up, the thief has to go. And the thief has been doing a great job stealing your energy. Basically, when you have certain thoughts, you lower your vibration. And as you lower your vibration, you allow energies that have a slightly higher vibration to now move and start to work within you and start to cause damage until you catch yourself, and then you have the capacity to shut those energies down. If anyone's been in a situation where they're feeling down and a friend comes along and the friend is full of energy, and by the time the friend has left, your energy is picked up and you're no longer feeling sick.
Yeah.
All the person did was raise the vibration so that whatever energy that was attacking you now cannot attack you because your vibration is raised and you feel better just because.
Yeah, totally.
So your language is really just your biological computer code
Right,
that you
for
have
your
for your
cells and
personal creation and for your
right.
mind, and when you travel to past lives or to future lives, because time doesn't exist, that past and future, you're just traveling to other versions of you that exist in other dimensions, and you're going amongst them, and effectively all of you are the one. This is my version of the oneness, not the one that we're all here in one space. Of course, you're all images in my mind, and you exist in your own intelligence and in your own right. And everyone else you see is just an image in your mind. But that's not the totality of who they are. You've just condensed it, compacted it into an image just for easy use or easy access.
Yeah.
But it's still a language that you're using in order to give order to all these things you're doing.
Wow, because I think you're the only person I've heard really explaining about the personal language, and I haven't heard the explanations of the other people who talk about light language. It seems like, is this the time for this to come out, or has there always been traditions of finding one's own inner language?
It's cycles as far as information is concerned.
Right.
But then every individual, when they get to that point where they're no longer focused purely on their physical story self, other aspects of them can now rise up within them and start to make themselves known. Your body is always looking to find a way to heal itself. That's why your past memories, or what you call the past, always pop up into your head all the time. It's like, sorry to be crude, but someone that needs to go to the toilet, their body's going to keep telling them, you need to go to the toilet. Because we want to get rid of this waste out of our body. And this is how it is with your mind. Your body is constantly telling you, this is waste. That's why it keeps bringing up what you perceive as old memories, old feelings. And the more you push them down, the more they spread into your body as illnesses, because they need to come out. Yeah, so we're constantly always regurgitating, because our body finds that whole sequence of events in us poisonous, something which needs to be got out of us.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And I was thinking, after saying I didn't know about light language, I suddenly remembered in my aunt's church when the spirit would get somebody and they would start to speak in tongues.
This is the tongue business, yeah?
But what's interesting, so there's two tongue business.
There is too.
Because what I noticed, so after my aunt died and her son took over the church, he made loads of changes. So when my aunt was alive, people would start speaking in tongues, but you notice this auntie's tongues was different to that auntie's tongues. When my cousin took over, suddenly they were all taught
the tongues, I know.
A new tongues that seems to consist of 3 words, shabalabalaba.
Yeah, that's it. Something like that. You went there. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough.
And it was very interesting because I hadn't heard of light language, but I knew this don't feel right, that apparently somebody's teaching people how to speak in tongues, and then they're teaching a whole set of other people apparently how to interpret it, where when Mami was alive, it seemed to be a spontaneous thing, and the next person who would interpret it seemed to get it spontaneously. So I started to understand that there was some manipulation going on, and just really as you were talking, I started remembering that, thinking, oh, that's an interesting new bit of programming that was kind of plugged in for somebody's internal language now to be changed to 3 kind of syllables, really. Yeah. But do you think back in the day when people were speaking in tongues, do you think that was their internal language, or do you think that's something else as well?
No, there's what you said, where there seems to be about 20 words, more than 3. And everyone seems to say the similar set of things all the time. And I suppose if you don't say that, then people might not believe you're speaking tongues. But I've heard of people that have come to me and said, we speak, just comes out of us like that, and it's not in that way. And they're not always encouraged to stay in the church. They say, oh, well, you're a bit different, and you can, we don't want the rotten apple spoiling the barrel, you know? So therefore you can move along. And only those people that speak within the format that we, endorse are the one that is there. And the interpretation of it, there's thousands of languages. And the problem that you have, or millions of them to be fair, and the problem that you have with each language is, a language is merely a sound that corresponds to an image. That's all it is. So when you're speaking these other languages, if you haven't agreed on the image that goes with that sound, you're not going to be able to see it. Because language is to be seen. If you don't have an image connected to the word, you can't create a hologram in order to understand what is taking place. The process is to generate an image, and then you have a clue of what you're actually talking about. You don't understand people's words. You understand the image that you create from their words. And once you've created an image in your mind, if what the image you have in your mind is not clear, you say, hold on, could you say that again, please? Could I get more detail from what you said so I can create the correct image inside my mind? So that's all language is. So when you're speaking your real language, your original language, which you came from your planet of origin. Because it's not just from here. You're not from here. You was inserted here. Yeah, the fact is your consciousness started before you arrived. That's why when a woman has several children, each one has their own particular character. Each one has their own particular way.
Yes, yes, yes.
Because, and the parents can't say we, spontaneously created that consciousness. No, the consciousness was with the child before it came here. Yeah. In fact, a child has the totality of who it's going to be, when it's going to be, how it's going to grow, what it's going to be interested in before it was born. Mm. And when you're looking at that baby, you're looking at your way of understanding that situation. But that child, in its DNA, has all the information that it will ever need already buried in that DNA. Everything, all the images, all the faces, all the heights, all the sizes, everything you can ever be must exist within you. Otherwise, you couldn't achieve it. You can't become something else. All you can become is the versions of the self that you already have within you. That's all that it is. Yeah. So that baby is not a baby. It's a bundle of joy, yes, but it's a bundle of information as well.
Yeah, yeah. And I think all parents who have more than one child definitely know that, hang on, I brought you two up the same, and this one is this and that one is a right pain. So definitely they come with who they are, for sure. But I'm going to open up to questions because Kaz beautifully showed... Oh, 5 minutes. All right, let me just be fast. Questions?
Yes. Question?
Oh, that's when you've done a good job. No one's got questions.
Hello.
Oh,
I just wanted to quickly ask, how can you translate what the light language is trying to say to you, basically? Is it just you understanding the emotions you get from it, or...?
They're supposed to generate some images within you, because we have a classic story of a lady that done one of the courses that we did, and I asked her so I can tell the story. She had a situation where once she learned her language, she had a 2-year-old son. So if your child has the same language, your child will have the same language as you because you created a child, effectively. So she had a situation where she wanted her child to sit down. So she asked her people, or she asked herself, well, how do I say sit down? So she said it in the language that she had. And then she said it, and the baby looked at her like, hold on, what's going on? You actually understand that language, what's going on? And the baby said, sit down, and began to sit down. So she realized they both cut from the same cloth. They both speak the language, because if the mother created a child, they both communicate. They was in the womb for how many months or what have you. So effectively, the energy of the mother, the knowledge and everything is still there. So your child will speak the same language as you. And your child will pick up what you're thinking, even though you haven't told them. They'll just know because both of you are linked by your umbilical cord, which is not physical, it's energetic. What you see is physical is just one aspect of it, but because you, how do you say, consume energy through your whole body, all of us all the time are eating in our environments. That's why you can go into various places and you'll feel sick, because the energy in that environment is toxic to your mind. We are constantly eating through our skin. It's the illusion that we're just eating through our mouth. Yeah?
Thank you.
No worries.
Sorry, I'm not asking questions. Just want to share an experience about what you talk about in language or interpretation and so on. What I know that I've received was that many of the ancient things are coming back, and is spread among, our people. So what I was being informed by them was we should pay attention. Mothers should pay attention to their child, because the spirit of the ancient is coming back through a chosen child. And there are some things when you say it unknowingly, the child will know it without you putting an effort, because you don't even know what is happening. And to what I've experienced one day, I was praying, and I find myself speaking language that I don't even know.
Yeah.
So when I was conscious about it, I couldn't stop. I just continued, but I was mentioning a name because I was praying in a way to have, sorry to say, husband. And I was mentioning the name of the person, which up to today I've never seen. But I pray for the person and in a language totally that I've never have a knowledge of it. And and to many mothers that I know, because I live in Brussels before, and I'm not permanent here, but I'm more or less here than over there. A lot of things that I've experienced through many mothers, that they are saying, oh, my son did this, my son do that. And what I receive as a message at a point that the spirit of what we can say the book, which they call the Bible, is our instruction book, which the spirit of so-called King David, Joseph, and so many, that they are truthful at that time. And our own personal ancients are coming back. So we should need to be attentive to what is happening around us and not take it for, granted.
Yes.
And
Thank you. It's interesting what she said because we never really was taught properly about DNA. And that DNA is a database. And that database holds enough information because they found a way to actually interact with DNA so they can put information onto DNA, onto our blood. But they realized the whole of your blood could hold about 35 million, whatever that is, but years of information. And all your ancestors and all their features and all their thoughts and all their energy is inside you. Your parents effectively create your body, but they also, in their DNA, put their programs into you as well. And they put your ability to be able to survive in this reality. The fact that you can see anything is because your parents, when they were creating you, what they had seen became visible for you to see. If your parents hadn't seen certain things, the child may not see it when that scenario comes in. So your parents can put in the wisdom that they had into your blood, so you now pick up and trigger and know when to speak or not to. Or sadly, they can put the reverse, their fears, their pains into you. So you then operate from the system of which they programmed into you as well. That's why we say up until a certain age, you're still acting as a piece of your parents, because their DNA is then attracting events to you based on their actions as well.
Hi there, good evening.
Good evening.
Okay, my question is about the DNA we just mentioned.
Yeah.
And collective DNA, or will I say, if I say like we're a total combination of all our past DNA.
Yeah.
And I could imagine that in our DNA, there would be, like, we'll have parents, they will have parents, our grandparents.
Yeah.
Our grandparents too will have parents. I could assume that all that DNA, collective DNA, is all within our, our physical body as we speak. And this is what I think they call junk DNA or dormant DNA. I don't know, maybe you can elaborate more on that.
Okay, to my understanding, because the term junk suggests that your mind created something you didn't need, which kind of doesn't make sense. It'd be more, your mind created something you forgot to use. And because most of us are restricted by the science that we've been taught, because there's religion, and then there's science, which is another religion, where another group of people have told you what you're possible and what you're capable to do. You notice that when you're in your dreams, you can fly, you can do all of those different things. You can't do that when you're awake because you've been told your body can't do those things. When you see a little bird on the floor, it can jump 100 feet in the air, and it's got skinny legs. It's not doing it with muscles. It just can jump because it hasn't been told it can't do. So I don't think we have junk. I just think we have potential information and abilities within us that we haven't used because we believe in the religion of science. And that has restricted us to what we believe we're capable of, and restricted us to the idea what morality or spirituality is, we call it, because most people's morality is their spirituality. They believe there's a God of this simulation that is bestowing gifts and all that kind of thing on them when it's really themselves. Because if they believe a thing should happen, guess what? It turns up. Yeah? So I don't believe that there's junk DNA. I believe it's just DNA that the science hasn't worked out a way to actually extract what they need to extract from it. So they've referred to it in that way. But imagine DNA, if you can see the strands, what is the intelligence inside the strands that you can't see? How does it actually work? What is the real science behind it, or the real energies that are working from it? Because I was always taught from a long time that DNA is a database, and it holds all your actions, all the actions of your parents. So when you have brothers and sisters or what have you, all of them will create different children based on their experiences, because everything you think, everything you do becomes part of your database, and every child you have has that database of information transferred to them.
Sorry. Is there a particular way to trigger DNA? Like, say, smell through smell, through our sensory perceptions.
Yeah.
For instance, if we're eating certain foods,
Sorry.
with those foods, basically, if those foods were foods or smells that were, predisposed to our previous DNA,
Yeah.
would that trigger that? Could we use that to trigger dormant DNA?
Well,
Dormant DNA now.
when the thing is, when you say trigger DNA, are you triggering the energies that live within your DNA? Because your DNA becomes a link to all your ancestors that came before you. So all of them are part of who you are. And there's a way that you can access your ancestors in your DNA to consciously communicate with you. And you're going to have triggers of feelings to eat certain foods and be in certain situations just because that's what your ancestors did. Even certain words that you're going to hear is going to impact you in a different way, because that's what the ancient people that had your blood actually spoke. So that's why you're going to feel a vibration. You're going to feel something, because they're not speaking to the avatar conscious of you. They're speaking to the energy that resides within you. Or energies, so yeah.
Interesting. Thank you very much.
No worries. Okay.
I've got two. One, two.
Hi, you spoke about us having like different personalities or people within us. And I just wanted to ask, the fact that we all have our ancestors' DNAs, are those part of that DNA, our ancestors' personalities as well?
There are aspects where you can trigger certain fates of your ancestors, and there are aspects where you can be in a certain situation and then a certain calm come over you, where all of a sudden you have a knowing that you were not taught or educated. It's just like you know how to do something. There's situations where sometimes you, as they say, every time you ask a question, every time someone speaks to you, you repeat it back into your mind. And you wait for a voice to come within your mind to give you an answer to that question. So you have access to the DNA and the database of everything that's ever happened to anyone or anything. You have it all there within you, so you can bring that into you. So that's something different. You have your ancestors there. They operate within you in a, how do you say, consultory situation. When you've actually got to a point where you have taken all the data, you've created an image in your mind, then you have another voice that speaks within you. And most of the time, you're debating with someone in your head. It's either your fears or there's a voice in you that is clear and saying, you know what, you should try this. And that's the voice that afterwards you turn around and say, oh man, I should have followed my mind. because I heard something tell me something and I didn't go ahead. And that's where your ancestors would be having conversations with you, trying to clarify your mind when you're asking a question. So the personalities, which is another level where you've gone through certain events in your life and you've created ways to protect yourself. Like you could have a situation, say, in relationships where a person, in each relationship, they were a different person. They changed according to the person, the scenario, and they became someone else in those different relationships. Now, all of those different personalities they created for that relationship still exist within them. And over a period of time, you will see in the relationship, those different personalities come out. If you're observing, you say, oh, where did that come from? And the person could have said something which triggered a behavior that you did with a past boyfriend or past girlfriend, and the personality from that situation now comes forward and starts taking over your behavior. You said, oh, I don't know. It'll be a flash, but you're constantly trying to protect yourself from events and moments in your life, and you have a load of personalities within you that are there to do it. Sometimes it's not great, because if you pick up one of those, what they call narcissistic personalities, that is something, again, which is parasitical, so it needs to feed off everyone around it. Everyone around you is constantly being asked to give something for that person to feel whole within themselves. But that's a whole next level conversation. So we have tons of personalities. Some are ancestral, some are you've created, some are from your past lives as well. Because in your past lives and previous lives, you may have gone through things which you came to this dimension to try and fix. Certain people you meet, you're going to feel a certain way when you meet them because you've had relationships with them in previous lives. So the chemistry that you both have is still within your DNA and still a personality within you, which is triggered when you see them. That's why when you see certain people, you feel all over the place, just because you've had a previous with them. And your body remembers, even though your mind, stuck in your pursuit to fix yourself, doesn't remember but feels.
Okay. Is it the same thing as when you have DNA exchange, for example, through kiss or sex, for example?
Wow, you went there. All right. Well, you know, how do you say, you can tell an old couple because the woman starts to look like the man. They start to look more like brothers than separate people, because the man's DNA over a time will change the woman's appearance. Yeah? So effectively, yes, you're always exchanging DNA. You're always exchanging energies. That all of me becomes all of you, literally. So, yeah? Okay.
Sorry.
No, it was just more of a comment. Thank
Go
you
ahead.
so much for the talk anyway. It was really good. It was just for people, if they wanted to find out a little bit more, because maybe sometimes people get a wrong idea about what DNA is, but you could look into a book called Time and the Technosphere, and then that can give you maybe a bit of a reference over the reality of where you are, as well as the nature of what nature of what DNA is.
Did you say that again? Technosphere?
Time in the Technosphere.
Okay, I'll look for that one myself. Go on.
This lady wanted to share something.
Okay, very short.
Thank you very much. What our brother just said, I experienced something some years ago. That was the time that the computer just started, the language and so on. I applied for a work where they were looking for a secretary to the director. And I have no any level of being in that position. I answered 4 out of 5 advert that was put in the book. And the spirit was telling me, answer the other one, which is the 5th one that says secretary to the director. And I said to myself, I'm not fit. My standard of education doesn't go to that level. He said, answer to that advert. And when I answered 2 days after, they are the only one that called me for an interview, and I get the position.
That's how it works.
That's a wonderful, wonderful one to end on. And once again, just super, super excited for a wonderful conversation with you, Edison. And thank you very much, everyone who came, who've helped us achieve our first year and plenty more years to come. Thank you very much, and a big applause to everyone.